Hi, and welcome to Digital Tech Reviews and Tips. Today in this video, I'm going to be comparing the DJI Mini 3 Pro versus the DJI Mavic 2 Pro here. Now, on the surface, other than the fact that they both have Pro in their name and a little bit ironically with the Mini over here, they're very different drones, but not many people have made a comparison video of them, so here I am. The Mavic 2 Pro over here, you have a 1-inch sensor with Hasselblad technology infused. You get 10-bit video in the form of D-Log and HLG mode, and you get a slightly tighter field of view than you do on the Mini 3 Pro. Now, on the other hand, Mini 3 Pro here is no slouch. This is DJI's newest drone as of summer 2022. It comes in under 250 grams, which is pretty impressive. And they bumped the size of the sensor up from the Mini 2 from a 1/2 inch, which was already impressive enough, to a 1 and 1.3 inch sensor, which is kind of confusing unless you're an absolute nerd with fractions, but basically all you have to know, 69 square millimeters here versus 116 square millimeters. So actually a pretty big difference when it comes down to how much sensor area is there to receive light from the outside world, but you can still get some really good images out of this drone. It does have 10-bit in the form of sign like, which is not really going to give you the same color quality of the HLG or D-Log, but does give you some more dynamic range. And you get a 12 megapixel quad Bayer sensor, so you can bump that up to 48 megapixels when you're using that quad Bayer technology. However, you do lose a lot of your low light capabilities when doing so. Now, that being said, both these drones can really capture great images, so that's why I made this video, just chucking images from both of the drones up side by side. I went out and shot a ton of sample footage, photos, videos, and tried to line them up as best as possible, so don't critique me too much in the comments down below. And did this all for you guys so that you could really look at which one was going to be the best drone for you and which one was going to suit your needs. Now, before we get into that though, I just want to mention two quick things. One, if you do like this video, click like, click subscribe, interact with it so YouTube knows that it's a good video and can help me out and help me grow my channel. Second thing, if you want some extra resources for helping you decide which drone to use, I do have links down in the description below. One is going to be to the images that I used in this video, the sample footage, sample images. You can download that and really get in there and pixel peep 1,000 times in, see just how much noise there is in each image. And the second file that you can check out is a spreadsheet I have down below that has literally all of DJI's newest drones out there, updated with the specs side by side by side by side, so you can just go across the line and see which one's going to have the things that you need the most and which one's going to be best able to suit your needs. Now, that's really it though, so enough of the chit-chatting, and let's get to that sample footage to help you decide which drone is going to be best for you. All right, so let's just take a quick break from those side-by-side comparisons to pop the drones in the air, do a talk about specs, and also compare how the ActiveTrack capabilities work. Right now we have the Mavic 2 Pro in the air, and I have a lav mic on because neither of these drones record audio, so yeah, we're not gonna just have me talking and gesturing around for 5 minutes or whatever. As you can see, Mavic 2 Pro is trying to track me right now, doing a fairly good job. It does have more hardware when it comes to tracking compared to the Mini 3 Pro. You actually get side sensors. So for example, I can take the drone and go, let's have it rotate around me. And I have a little more faith that it's not just gonna plow into something, and wreck itself. The other thing to note though is that it is older software. So more hardware, but you have older software. I think it's ActiveTrack 2.0 compared to 4.0 on the Mini 3 Pro. So you're gonna notice it probably doesn't do as good a job of staying locked on me when I, might duck behind a boulder or something like that, as well as, just overall, might struggle a little more to avoid an obstacle because it has APAS, I think 1 compared to 4.0 as well. Now, last thing to note here about the Mavic 2 Pro is that Overall, in my testing, I have noticed that the footage looks really good. That 1-inch sensor just absolutely, you know, looks so great on everything. It looks, honestly, I think better because it's not quite as sharp as the Mini 3 Pro. You know, it just overall looks really great, popping into whatever setting. But right on cue, battery life has been a major issue, mainly because this drone is just an older drone. You know, you have batteries that potentially have had anywhere from, you know, 50 to 100 cycles if you've owned this drone for a while, and those aren't doing too well. And then overall, also just the technology is slightly outdated, so the flight time, the flight stabilization isn't as good. The one thing I have really liked is tripod mode. DJI, bring that thing back, because the ability to just get slow moving shots with this drone, absolutely incredible. They haven't replicated it since this drone, and I'm really missing it. I know a lot of other people who are as well. So yeah, that's the Mavic 2 Pro. Let's pop the Mini 3 Pro in the air and we'll see how that thing does. All right, so here we are now with the Mini 3 Pro, and this is not a mountaintop, is it? No. Yeah, apologies for that, guys. I did try to film both these drones, you know, in the same environment on that mountaintop. I actually did do it. As you can see, I have the footage of me here walking around the mountaintop, the Mini 3 following me as best it can. However, I forgot to, or messed up hitting the record button on my lav mic. So yeah, that's about all you get, is just footage and no me talking, which kind of defeats the purpose of a walk and talk. So now I'm back here on the parking garage, triple check that lav mic in my pocket to make sure it's going. And yeah, let's try this again. So as you can see, Mini 3 Pro is currently tracking me. I actually think it does a better job than the Mavic 2 Pro, because the Mavic 2 Pro only has ActiveTrack 2.0, whereas the Mini 3 Pro is actually utilizing ActiveTrack 4.0, which, while not DJI's newest ActiveTrack, because technically there's ActiveTrack 5.0 in the Mavic 3, this is like the same one that they have in the Air 2S and all those drones. So yeah, very good, very smooth in being able to, you know, transition from just yawing left and right to follow you, to being able to actually move to keep you in frame, and also does a good job of anticipating your movements and like keeping an eye on you when you go behind things partially, that it, you know, doesn't just give up and just say, never mind, like the Mavic 2 Pro often will. However, how I mentioned when I was talking about the Mavic 2 Pro, this drone does not have any side sensors, so it's very scary when you're in any areas where there are things like trees and power lines and stuff. I am on top of a parking garage right now because there's not much around, and that was very specific that I did that, because I don't trust this drone at all. One, you know, it does do some things good. If it's going forward, it does a decent job. So if I go down the stairs, you can see it does a good job of keeping me in frame, not losing me as it tips, and get some more top-down perspective of me, and actually going through those concrete barriers there to keep me in frame, and then lower down on the other side. So yeah, it's not terrible, but just, you know, you're not getting a Skydio with either of these drones, and each of these drones have their own strengths when it comes to ActiveTrack. Now, the other two things I want to talk about when it comes to the Mini 3 Pro here, first thing is battery life. Battery life is honestly probably the second most important feature, other than image quality, when it comes to choosing which drone you want. With the standard battery in, I get about the same battery life as I've been getting on the Mavic 2 Pro. That's like 25 minutes or so. Honestly, it's a little longer than the Mavic 2 Pro, because I've gotten up to 27, 28 minutes sometimes with the standard battery on the Mini 3 Pro here. However, when you put in that extended battery, that's where things get really fun. I've gotten 33 to 35 minutes with this drone, and that's at 5,000 feet up here in Colorado. So if you're at sea level, it could be even longer. Good, just like real world comparison is I've been doing about like 3 to 4 takes here, maybe even this is my 5th take, and I'm at about 60% battery life. With the Mavic 2 Pro, I was almost at 30% by now and having to think about landing it. So yeah, it just shows how much more time in the air you get, and how much more, you know, less you have to think about the battery life when it comes to filming with this drone. Now, the final thing is, can you hear that? Because if not, that's kind of the point. This drone is a lot quieter than the Mavic 2 Pro. The Mavic 2 Pro is not, you know, loud by most means. I mean, when it was released, it was a lot quieter than the Phantom. But since then, we've had the Air line, the Mini line, and now this is the newest in the Mini line, and it's really so quiet. With the Mavic 2 Pro, I tend to, you know, lose the hearing on it, and like can't hear the props anymore at about 300 to 400 feet, sometimes 500 feet. With this drone, it's like 150, 200 feet, maybe 250 feet max, and I can't hear it anymore. So yeah, really quiet in the air, not gonna be a big bother if you're flying it near people or in, you know, nature areas where you worry about like disturbing people's peace. But yeah, that's really it with these two drones. Hope you enjoyed this kind of like talking about a feature segment and the ActiveTrack test. Let me know if you did, or things I can talk about more in other videos that are like this. But let's get back to those image quality comparisons so we can see exactly how good the cameras are on these two drones. Oh, well, I did forget to mention one more thing. This drone has a lot more upward tilt than the Mavic 2 Pro. So as you can see, it's on the ground now and it's able to tilt up. Like, that's not at a very attractive angle for filming me, but that's insane upwards tilt compared to the Mavic 2 Pro, which would probably max out, gotta say, right about there. So like, yeah, if you care about upwards tilt, especially if you're flying forward in the wind and the drone is having to pitch forward a lot, like, that's an insane feature that could really be game changing, yeah.